So what is the best beginner / budget gimbal? We go jump right into it, but before we do, welcome to PTQ4. If you guys don't know already, I'm a videographer and photographer in the DMV area, and I've used gimbals a lot throughout my career so far. I've used them for real estate, sports, weddings, and even just regular content creation like this. And I think they're a very crucial piece of gear to have in your arsenal as a videographer. So I believe I might have a pretty good budget / beginner option. All right, so this is the Zhiyun Cinepeer Weebill 3E. This is Zhiyun's newest gimbal, and Zhiyun actually sent me this gimbal to review, so I appreciate them for that. And I've been using this gimbal for about 2 weeks now, and I gotta say it's pretty solid. Now when it comes to unboxing, it comes to you in this nice recyclable cardboard box. It actually comes in this carrying case, which is actually pretty different than what I'm used to. It comes with your cords, your base plate, the gimbal, and the tripod / hand grip. Now let's talk about the design and build. So far you can tell it has a really nice light grayish color. It looks really good. It's not like major white, and it's not like sleekish gray. It's like right in the middle. It's a really nice color. Of course, you got your 3-axis, you got your yaw, you got your roll, and then you got your pitch up and down. And the arms actually feel very stable. Definitely made out of good metal parts. You got your trigger on the front of the gimbal. You got your slider wheel. On the back, you have your display to see all of your settings. And on the side, you have your power button and your menu button. And you also have your dials to do stuff on the screen. On the side here, you have your joystick, you have your mode selector, and of course, you got your record button. And one thing about having a gimbal of this size is, of course, the portability. This gimbal fits inside of my bag, and it actually fits inside the bag, and it doesn't take up too much space. So that's one thing that I like about a gimbal of this size. Now, this gimbal actually weighs 990 grams, which is way lighter than my other gimbal. And honestly, with the gimbal, you want it to be as light as possible. I've done seminars where I've had to hold my gimbal for like 2 hours straight. And if you're holding it for that long, bro, your arm may give out. I'm just gonna be real. Now, the payload of this gimbal is actually 6.6 pounds. Now, this setup is maybe 8 pounds and some change, maybe less, honestly. So I know for my camera setups, this gimbal can pretty much handle anything. This is usually the setup that I use all the time on all of my gimbals, so I usually never have any type of weight issues. Now let's talk about one of the probably more difficult things about a gimbal, and that is balancing. Now when I first opened up this gimbal and I first balanced it, it maybe took me about 10 minutes, but that's also because I've balanced gimbals before, so I kind of knew what to do. Balancing on this one is actually quite simple as well. I'm not going to give a full tutorial in this video. Comment down below if you do want a balancing tutorial video, but this is really simple. Start with the pitch. You have a little dial right here. You unscrew the dial and then just pick it up, line up to where you see that it's level. And once it's balanced pointed up, sometimes it's not balanced pointing centered. You have to use this dial, and you actually move this plate back and forth until it sits up right to where you can basically move it anywhere without it moving around. Then you balance the second axis, which is your roll, and this one basically just want to keep it centered, so then you move this plate, which actually moves the whole camera module side to side until you see that it's balanced. Once it's balanced, lastly you have your pan. You can undo that, and then you kind of tilt it, and then you tilt it slowly, and if you start seeing it swinging, that means it needs to be readjusted. And then you know it's balanced when you can pretty much put it anywhere and it'll stay. Now let's talk about some of the features of this thing. Now, probably the main feature that I like the most about this gimbal is that it has a native portrait mode. You can actually move this whole plate, take it out, put it on this little lip right here. You can make it vertical. You do have to rebalance it, which might take a minute, but it's still a great feature. One thing about gimbals that I like is that they're pretty much fully customizable. You can customize this dial, you can customize it to do focus, you can customize it to aperture, shutter speed, ISO. I actually have mine set up to do ISO. Also, it has a cord to plug in from the gimbal to the camera, and that is just so you can do the recording, and you can do dial adjustment if you want to change your ISO, aperture, anything like that. Let me show you some of the modes. So bam, it's on right now. As you guys can see, it's fully stable. And so of course, when you have your joystick can actually move it around to wherever you want it to go. There's different motor modes. So right now I have it on pan follow, which basically means the camera will turn with me, and I can actually change the speed of this. So if I want it to turn faster or turn slower. Locking mode, this is actually my favorite mode. You can turn it, you can go up and down, go side to side, twist it up and down, go front to back, and then basically just stay locked in place. It'll lock all the way in front. Another one is follow, which basically means that it'll tilt up and down with me, and it will turn side to side. Another mode is POV, which basically the gimbal will basically go everywhere you want it to go. It'll go side to side, it'll tilt left to right, and it'll turn whenever you want it to turn. Another mode is the go mode, which is basically like sport mode. This thing will go fast as you need it to go. I feel like this is like if you want to catch something really quickly. And then lastly, I feel like I don't use it enough, but you do have your 360 vortex mode. So another thing about this gimbal, if you're doing adjustments to it and stuff like that, if you want to actually recenter it, all you got to do is just double tap, and the gimbal will recenter itself. I always think that's pretty cool. And another thing is that if you want to do like some selfie vlogging stuff, triple tap the trigger and it'll go 180 just to look at me. That way I can like vlog, even though I think it's probably too heavy to vlog on. And all I gotta do is just triple tap it again. And it'll go back to the front. It's always pretty cool to see that. Something cool that this gimbal does that I actually haven't seen any other gimbal do with this type of display is it'll show me what ISO I'm at whenever I'm making changes. Like that's pretty cool. This also does have a Bluetooth shutter, which basically means that I can use the camera without having to plug it into the gimbal. Now the gimbal's battery life says it's about 16 hours, which is pretty good. Like I say, usually I'm doing weddings or doing like long seminars that are only about 3 or 4 hours. Weddings of course can be like 10 or 8 hours. It could really be the whole day, but I never really had to run into any battery issues with this thing so far. So now when you're carrying this camera around and carrying in your backpack, one thing that you can do is you can actually lock each axis. Now some of the cons of this thing, these axes when they're locked do jitter around a little bit, like if y'all can hear that. But like I said, this is an entry budget gimbal. So now another thing about this gimbal is that it actually has an app. It's called ZY Play, and bam, you can pretty much control everything about this gimbal right here. Like I said, I can basically move it like a joystick. You can select all the different modes in here. You can tilt it automatically. That's pretty cool. Of course, you can also record your motion, which is what a lot of people like to do. Wherever my phone goes, as y'all can see, little finicky at sometimes, but of course you can calibrate it. You could do pretty much all the settings that you could do on the menu. You can pretty much do it there. So I'm actually gonna show you guys some examples that I filmed of my dad's motorcycle, just to give you guys more insight. All right, so I'm out here with my dad's bike, and pretty much I'm just gonna do a little cinematic reel, and we're gonna see how I perform. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Again, big thanks to Zhiyun for sending me this gimbal and sponsoring this video. If you guys want to pick up this gimbal, I have a 10% discount code in the link in the description. Make sure you follow my Instagram at PTQIV4. I post a lot of my content and just behind the scenes stuff on there. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and of course leave a comment down below. I see all the comments, I respond to all the comments, and as always, stay blessed.